Was I wrong for what I did? You tell me. Imagine dedicating your entire life, every single ounce of your being, to building something, only to have it spit on, disrespected, and torn down by the very person you welcomed into your family. I'm talking about my daughter-in-law, a woman who, for years, chipped away at my dignity until I finally snapped. It all culminated in a public humiliation that pushed me over the edge. So, I took it all back, every single thing. And when she stood there, eyes wide with shock and fury, all I could offer was a calm, good luck. Tell me, would you have done the same thing? My story begins long before my son, David, met Sarah. I was a young woman, fresh out of college, with a burning ambition to make something of myself. My husband, bless his soul, was a wonderful man, but he wasn't a businessman. He was a dreamer, a poet, and he encouraged my drive. Together, we started a small bakery, a place born out of my passion for baking and his love for art. We poured our hearts and souls into that business. We worked tirelessly, sometimes sleeping on flour sacks in the back, just to make ends meet. We built it from the ground up, brick by brick, recipe by recipe. It wasn't just a business, it was our legacy, a testament to our enduring love and hard work. When my husband passed away peacefully in his sleep, the bakery became my sole focus, my anchor in a sea of grief. I nurtured it, expanded it, and turned it into a local institution, a beloved spot known for its exquisite pastries and warm atmosphere. My son, David, grew up in the bakery. He learned to knead dough before he could ride a bike. He watched me haggle with suppliers, innovate new recipes, and manage a growing staff. I always envisioned him taking over, carrying on the family tradition. He had the same kind eyes as his father and a similar gentle spirit, but he also had a keen mind for business, a trait I was immensely proud of. David met Sarah in college. She was bright, vivacious, and initially seemed like a wonderful addition to our family. I welcomed her with open arms, seeing in her the kind of spirited young woman who could complement David's more reserved nature. I bought them their first house, a beautiful little place near the bakery, so they could start their lives close to us. It was a gesture of love, a way to help them get a head start, something my parents could never do for me. I wanted them to have every advantage. I even helped them with their wedding, paying for a significant portion of the expenses because I wanted it to be perfect for them. I even offered Sarah a job at the bakery, thinking it would be a great way for her to learn the ropes, to understand the business, and to eventually work alongside David. I wanted her to feel like part of everything I had built. She accepted, and for a while, things were good. She was enthusiastic, if a little naive about the demands of running a business. I patiently taught her everything, from managing inventory to dealing with difficult customers. I saw her as the future of the bakery, David's partner in both life and business. I genuinely believed she was a good person, someone who would cherish what we had built. The changes started subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. Sarah began to question my methods, my recipes, even my management style. At first, I attributed it to youthful exuberance, a desire to put her own stamp on things. I tried to be understanding, open to new ideas. But her suggestions quickly turned into criticisms, and her criticisms into outright disrespect. She'd dismiss my years of experience with a wave of her hand, saying things like, "That's old-fashioned, Mom. We need to modernize." She started making changes without consulting me, changing suppliers, introducing new items that clashed with our established brand. I would find myself biting my tongue, trying to maintain peace for David's sake. David, bless his heart, was caught in the middle. He loved us both, but he had always been a peacekeeper, and he struggled to stand up to Sarah. He'd often try to mediate, to soothe ruffled feathers, but he never truly put his foot down. And Sarah, seeing his hesitation, became bolder, more audacious in her attempts to undermine me. The bakery, my sanctuary, my legacy, began to feel like a battleground. One particularly painful memory stands out. We were discussing a new marketing campaign. I had always relied on word of mouth and local advertising, which had served us well for decades. Sarah, however, insisted on a massive social media push, something I wasn't entirely comfortable with. During the meeting, she actually laughed at my suggestions, openly mocking my outdated ideas in front of the staff. "Oh, Mom," she said, her voice dripping with condescension, "we're not in the Stone Age anymore. People want trendy, not that." The staff, who had known me for years, looked uncomfortable, but none of them dared to speak up. David just sat there, looking at his hands. That sting, that public dismissal of my wisdom and experience, it festered. Then came the children. My beautiful grandchildren. I adored them, of course. They were the light of my life, but Sarah used them too, as another weapon in her arsenal. She'd complain about my overbearing presence, about how I was spoiling them, despite the fact that I was merely trying to shower them with love, just as I had showered David. She began to limit my access to them, making excuses, canceling plans last minute. It was a cruel tactic, and it broke my heart. David tried to intervene, but Sarah always had an excuse, a reason why my presence was a problem. "She's just trying to protect them, Mom," he'd say, but I knew it was more than that. It was about control, about isolating me, about making me feel irrelevant. The financial situation was another point of contention. I had always been financially prudent, building up a substantial nest egg for my retirement and to ensure the bakery's future. But Sarah, with her expensive tastes and lavish spending habits, began to put a strain on their finances. I had set up a trust for David, money from the sale of my husband's small inheritance, to be given to him when he turned 40. I had also designated the bakery to be solely his, though I still held the reins, slowly transitioning ownership. Sarah somehow convinced David to access the trust early, for what she called investment opportunities. These investments, as I later found out, were mostly extravagant vacations, designer clothes, and renovations to the house. I had bought them, renovations that were entirely unnecessary. I warned David, pleaded with him to be careful, but he was under her spell. He truly believed in her vision. And because she was working at the bakery and slowly taking more and more control, she started making decisions about the bakery's finances that were reckless, spending money on things that weren't necessary, all under the guise of modernizing. She was bleeding the business dry, and David was too blinded by her charm to see it. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have let it continue? Would you have fought back? Or would you have simply walked away? The final straw came at the annual Community Bake-Off, an event the bakery had won for 20 consecutive years under my leadership. It was a big deal, a source of pride for our small town. Sarah, in her infinite wisdom, decided to completely overhaul our entry. She dismissed my signature recipe, the one that had won us countless awards, calling it too predictable. Instead, she insisted on a bizarre, experimental concoction she'd found online, something completely alien to our brand and our customers' expectations. I pleaded with David to intervene, to remind Sarah of the importance of tradition, of our reputation. He just shrugged. "Give her a chance, Mom. Maybe she's onto something new. I was heartbroken, but I kept my mouth shut, hoping against hope that she might surprise me. The day of the bake-off arrived. The atmosphere was buzzing. Our usual customers, along with local dignitaries, were all there. Sarah, beaming with self-importance, presented her creation. It was, to put it mildly, a disaster. The judges took one bite, grimaced, and exchanged horrified glances. The crowd murmured. I watched, my heart sinking, as the results were announced. We didn't just lose, we came in last place. Last, the humiliation was palpable, and then Sarah did it. She walked over to me, a smirk on her face, and in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, she said, "Well, Mom, if you had just let me handle things properly from the start, we wouldn't have this problem. Your old ways are clearly outdated." The entire room went silent. Every eye was on me. My own daughter-in-law had publicly blamed me, had shamed me, for her own spectacular failure. My face burned with a mixture of anger, sorrow, and sheer disbelief. David, for once, looked genuinely mortified, but still, he said nothing. It was in that moment, as I stood there, humiliated and exposed, that something inside me snapped. The years of disrespect, the subtle jabs, the outright disdain, it all coalesced into a cold, unwavering resolve. I looked at Sarah, at her smug, victorious smile, and I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I had always been meticulous with my paperwork, ensuring that the bakery and all associated assets were legally sound and under my complete control until I chose to transfer them. The trust fund for David had explicit clauses allowing for early access only under specific circumstances, none of which Sarah's spending sprees qualified for. The house I bought them was in my name, with a verbal agreement for a future transfer once they were financially stable. Nothing had been officially given to them, not yet. I had held onto these things as a safety net, never imagining I would need to deploy them in such a manner. My lawyer confirmed everything. I had every legal right to take it all back. I called David and Sarah and asked them to meet me at the bakery. They arrived, Sarah still radiating an air of superiority, David looking tired and uneasy. We sat in my office, the same office where I had spent countless hours building my dreams. I looked at them, taking a deep breath. I've made some decisions. I began, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil within me. Effective immediately, Sarah, your employment at the bakery is terminated. David, your access to the trust fund is frozen. The early withdrawal you made will be accounted for, and any future access will require my express written consent, which I assure you will not be forthcoming for a very long time. Sarah's eyes widened, her smug expression replaced by a look of disbelief. "What are you talking about?" she sputtered. "You can't do that." "Oh, but I can," I replied, a small, cold smile playing on my lips. "And there's more. The house you're living in, it's in my name. I'm giving you 30 days to vacate. I've already informed my real estate agent to put it on the market." David finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Mom, what are you saying? This is our home." "It was a gift, David," I said, looking him directly in the eye. "A gift I offered when I believed you were building a life of respect and shared values. It appears I was mistaken." Sarah, enraged, slammed her hand on the desk. "You're doing this because of the bake-off, aren't you? You're petty, you're vindictive." I leaned back in my chair, allowing myself a moment to truly savor the shock and fury on her face. The bake-off was the public culmination of years of disrespect, Sarah. Years of you chipping away at my legacy, undermining my authority, and treating me with contempt. You humiliated me in front of my community, the very community that has supported this bakery for decades. You squandered money, disregarded my experience, and made my son complicit in your recklessness. You tried to take everything from me, piece by piece. Well, now I'm taking it all back." I then handed her a folder, thick with legal documents. "These are the termination papers, the eviction notice, and a full accounting of all the assets. My lawyer will be in touch to ensure a smooth transition." Sarah was speechless, her face a mask of fury and disbelief. David just sat there, head in his hands, finally seeing the consequences of his inaction. As they stood to leave, Sarah, her voice trembling with rage, glared at me. "You'll regret this, you old hag. You'll regret taking everything from us." I met her gaze, unflinching. "I don't think so, Sarah. I truly don't. Now you'll have to build your own life, your own success, without my help, without my money, without my generosity." And as she stormed out, dragging a shell, shocked David behind her, I simply looked at her retreating back and said, calmly, clearly, "Good luck." The aftermath was quieter than I expected, though certainly not without its challenges. There was gossip, of course, a flurry of whispers about what had happened. Some people sided with David and Sarah, believing I had been too harsh. But many, many more, those who had seen Sarah's behavior firsthand, understood. The bakery, free from her reckless management, began to flourish again. I implemented stricter financial controls, brought back our classic recipes, and slowly, the trust of our customers returned. David, after the initial shock and anger, eventually came to me. He was humbled, remorseful. He admitted he had been blind, manipulated by Sarah, and that he hadn't truly understood the depth of her disrespect until it was too late. He asked for a second chance, not with the trust fund or the house, but with the bakery. He wanted to learn, to work his way back up, to prove he deserved to carry on our legacy. I agreed cautiously. It's a slow process, rebuilding trust, but he's showing genuine effort, and for now, that's all I can ask for. Sarah, I haven't seen or heard from her since. The house sold quickly. I hear she's struggling to find work. Her reputation in our small town, rightfully, in tatters. So, was I wrong for what I did? For protecting what was mine? For standing up for myself against a person who sought to humiliate and destroy me? I don't think so. Sometimes, taking everything back is the only way to truly move forward, to reclaim your peace and your dignity. It was a painful lesson, but one I had to learn. If you were on my side in this whole mess, please like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole ordeal in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.